Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome. I can tell you that I need a real reset today. And this week is complete chaos for me as I'm preparing to move. And I don't know if you believe in this kind of thing or not, but Mercury is in retrograde, which means typically that communications just get misaligned. It's not a good time to make decisions, just when things tend to fall apart. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but it's definitely true for me right now. So I am excited to be talking to the one and only Mandy Gill today. And we are going to be talking about reset because I wrote a book on reset. She wrote a book on reset. And so we're going to get a lot of great insights and have some fun in our conversation. Mandy is a best-selling author. As I said, the book is called Reset with Resilience, A Guide to Greatness When Your Goals Go Sideways. And she actually talks and works with ultra endurance athletes. She's a seasoned broadcaster and keynote speaker. And after building and scaling one of the world's most effective behavior change apps, Hooked on Healthy Habits, Mandy has amassed one of the world's largest data sets focused on goal setting, resilience, and maximizing positive results, with over 10,000 clients to bringing them to extraordinary achievement. So this is really data-packed, people. That is really awesome that we've got some real research and data behind it. And without further ado, let's introduce Mandy. Hey, welcome to the show.
Penny, thank you so much. I love that we can connect on the reset piece. Like, I know this is your podcast, but at the same time, I'm like, I want to hear how our reset, has similarities and differences, because I genuinely think that is what is most enlightening for audiences is how they apply it to their lives. And yeah, it's a joy to be able to connect with you here.
Thank you. Well, it's true. I mean, at the end of the day, they don't care about my background. They don't care about your background. They don't care whether they were an Olympic athlete or they want to know, is it going to work for me, right? At the end of the day, I want to know, how do I apply this to my everyday? And if it feels too far away, too difficult, too overwhelming to think about, then it's not going to be implemented, right?
Absolutely. It has to be able to be simply applied. And you know what? That is what is so exciting about this conversation is for anyone listening, like, how can we help them to reset with resilience?
Yeah. So where do we start with that? Like, where would you start? Understanding that we only have, 20 minutes or so together of people's attention. What's the most important thing for them to know and understand about reset in your world?
Yeah, I think it's the fact of the matter that oftentimes we don't realize, particularly resilience is what I study, and resilience isn't needed when things are going well. We can all be resilient when things are going well. It really comes into play when things have gone sideways. And so that could be work situations, personal situations, family, relationships, you name it, right? And how do we apply the tools in order to reset with resilience when things do go sideways? And so when I personally think about it, I have most recently gone through, for the first time in my life ever, health complications. So I think about it, and you introduced me, thank you so much, an ultra endurance athlete, 100-kilometer ultra marathons. Like, this is the stuff that I love to do. And I saw myself as unstoppable and all of those things. And then all of a sudden my body told me otherwise. And we all know that we can't, like, logically, it'd be lovely if our brains could just control those instances, but they cannot. We have to listen. And so when I think about resetting, most recently, it really came down to the people that I choose to surround myself with, the things that I allow for myself to think on a consistent basis, and where my mind lands in that. And when I think about, resetting, truly, I think a lot of it comes down to accountability. You've got to have a really darn good plan. But like, accountability is just as important. It's those people that are going to help hold us up when things don't feel like they're just as easy.
Yeah, I want to go back to, I mean, there's a lot there to unpack what you just said, but I want to go back to, you said resilience is about the difficult times, right? When things go sideways. But, and maybe you would agree, but challenge you here a little bit. Don't we have to build resilience in the smaller moments so that we can access it in those times when things go sideways? I mean, if you're a hothead every day, you are going to be a hothead and a half when things go sideways, right?
Yes. And I appreciate you bringing that up because I don't want that to get lost in the message. I think that how we do build resilience is first off putting ourselves in situations where we can have those micro moments that it continues to strengthen. And so I oftentimes think of like, making sure that we have the mindset, like start how you want to finish. Oftentimes when we want to work towards a goal or something that is a little bit more outside of our objectives in this exact moment, we have all of this exciting energy heading into it. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, 3 weeks in, you fall flat and you're like, that was a fun dream. So like resilience can be built in those moments. And it really comes down to going one step at a time. And I always use the term, of course, as somebody who loves running in the mountains, forward is a pace. And so even though sometimes if it doesn't feel like you're making these extreme, jumps weekly or daily, as long as you're moving forward, it doesn't matter if it's 1 degree or 0.001, you're still moving forward. And that is a really important piece of building resilience.
It really is. It really is. By the way, I call those micro moments, the big or the small ones, the micro or the macro, I call them reset moments, right? Because they're that moment to realign ourselves, to recharge, to rethink, to reprioritize, right? Just to keep moving forward and in the direction that we want. Forward is a pace. I think sometimes we have such great expectations of ourselves and of others to say, we should be here. But where were you yesterday? As long as you're a few steps or a half step, like you said, you're moving forward, it's recognizing that is moving forward. I think that is absolutely critical. I can tell you how many times I have been like, I got nothing done today. And then I said, wait a minute, nothing. And then I look back and I'm like, well, wait, I actually did this and this and this, but maybe I didn't do the thing that I set out to do.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that I got nothing done. And it doesn't mean that I wasn't moving forward in progress. I'm sure that, you can relate to that as well.
Hugely. And I think sometimes too, like in society that we are a part of, it is about these achievement pieces, right? And so you mentioned something that I find really important when it comes to building resiliency is recalibrating. And so what you just explained to me right there was like, you caught yourself in that moment. I used like this 3-piece kind of mindset work from working with all of the clients in the Hooked and Healthy Habits app. And it's catch it, check it, change it. And so when I think of that process, you caught in that moment, Penny, the moment where you said, well, I didn't do anything today. And then you checked it and you were like, actually, yeah, I did. And then you changed it where you said, yeah, you know what? That still is a forward momentum. And that all in all is truly building resiliency because you might not realize it in the moment. It feels very small. But when it comes to bigger things, you apply those mindsets there.
Absolutely. It's funny. I have 3 steps as well. I think they correspond nicely. I do step back, get perspective, and realign. So very, very similar. Yes. Giving ourselves a structure to fall back on can really be helpful to structure those reset moments, those calibrations, so that they happen and that they don't. Do you ever find that people will catch it, but they'll stop there?
Yeah,
and be like, oh, yeah, I see what I'm doing, but they don't make a change, and they don't, they don't actually.
And it's like you're 1/3 of the way there. That was like the hardest part.
So why does that happen? Why do we create awareness? We'll step back, we'll recognize it, we'll see it, but then we don't do the rest of it. We're not following through all the way to get all the benefits of that reset moment and make it a reset moment. Why doesn't that happen?
I'm going to come from it from a standpoint of somebody who really loves the opportunity to work with people towards the bigger picture. And so when I think of that, I think of the word that's in the subtitle of the book, goals, right? So like if you know what your goal is, if you know that today you want to get X accomplished, or in 3 years from now, this is your big dream that you want to make come true. I think as long as you have that somewhere established within your foundation to know what direction you are heading, the catch it is one thing, but the check it is really important because if we have those values within ourselves and we know what we're working for, working towards and for, we can easily then change the direction and pattern of our thoughts. So, in my own opinion, I know some people are going to be listening thinking, I don't know what my goal is, or, I don't know what my purpose or what direction I want to go in. And I hear that.
But it's funny. I think they're going to say something else. I think they're going to say, I can't change my thoughts. That's what I think they're going to say. I can't change my thoughts. My thoughts are my thoughts. I am who I am.
Penny, can I ask you, when you think that, do you feel like that keeps them on the same path that they've been on for so long that the habit development isn't going to change?
Absolutely. Because they've created a habit. That is the habit, right? Is that way of thinking is exactly what keeps them where they are. I mean, you and I have a similar way of looking at things, or we use different words for them or whatever. But I think the principles that we stand for and work towards are the same. And I've seen that a lot as well. And I've seen it in myself. I'm not just saying others think that, right? I mean, I've
Yes.
seen it in myself.
We're products.
Yeah, we're human, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's the first thing, though, is to recognize that you can change those thoughts. And
Absolutely.
but
And
I
I
do
think-
also feel that there's resistance there, right? That's the way I feel. And I think also a key thing, and I'm wondering what you would say to this, we're also not talking about repressing or not accepting a feeling that comes up, but we're letting it pass through.
Flow through. Yes.
Right? Is that what you see as well? It's not like pushing it down or pushing it away or denying that it's there. Happy, be positive. This is not toxic positivity.
Mhm.
It's about moving through it. Is that what how would you describe that?
Absolutely. And there's a term that I've actually used a lot in my my own personal work. And the thing that I refer to is sometimes we can observe but not participate. Right.
Mhm.
So if we feel that emotion of either frustration or sadness, like those are important, a feeling of anxiety, anxiousness, something that we might not consider positive, those are important because those are signals that help us to understand our survival instincts. And so that actually can be telling us something really important as to which direction we want to go. Now, what is extremely imperative is we recognize those feelings, we feel those feelings, but at the core of it all, we need to know what is obviously going to be the best thing for us. And
Mhm.
so in that moment, that can be really hard to decide. And that's where I come into terms with, I say, Penny, if someone came to you and said, well, I can't change my thoughts. No, that's a questionable statement. But what I would then ask in return to that is, do you want to change? Because if you don't, that's okay too. But
Right. Well, I'm sure somebody would say, yes, I want to change.
absolutely, yes, most people, I would say 90% of the people that I get to work with are like, that's why I'm here,
Right.
and I'm like, okay, well then let's start from there. And so when I think of that, that is really creating that foundation of acknowledging what direction it is and what you're working towards. And then that can help to create the path. And I think of it like the neural pathways. We're just strengthening them so that the next time something like this comes up, we don't necessarily need to catch it and we don't need to change it, but it actually just is part of us now.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to come back to is you talked about accountability.
Yes.
So how does that fit into it? Because you talked about a lot of things in that first couple minutes and there's different things to unpack there. So how does accountability come into resilience? To me, that sounds like, huh?
So I find with what I've studied is it actually helps us to stay committed to what we're working towards, but it helps us to discover truly how much people actually want to see us succeed as well. And so that is a fundamental piece of resilience, is knowing that we have a village that supports us. And so I break it down into 3 different levels. There's personal accountability. So we're talking like your family, your close friends, maybe your neighbors or somebody at the gym, right? And then depends if you're in a professional setting, there can be professional accountability. We look at like a mentor or somebody that could even be a boss or, somebody that maybe has achieved something that you're looking to work towards and that you can learn certain specifics of what they did along their path. And that helps us internally to become more resilient because we see what they've done before. And then the last one to that is personal, professional, and truly like group settings. Like what I don't think we recognize is how valuable. Have you ever done like a charity event, something along those lines where you're like,
Sure.
okay, we're going to raise funds. I think of like the Ride to Conquer Cancer, or there's so many different things that would be, around us in all of our communities. And what's very interesting about those events is people oftentimes sign up and discover a whole new level of themselves possible
Mm.
than ever before from either an athletic standpoint or a mindset standpoint. But because they were in a group setting, they were held accountable to achieving a goal, but making it about something bigger than themselves. And so
Mhm.
when I say something bigger than themselves, it can be raising funds for, cancer awareness or, MS, that we could go down the line, because there's so many different opportunities out there to get involved from that standpoint. But yeah, I actually just I was sharing with you about my recent health experience, and there is a local group that is probably about 6 hours away from where we live here in North Vancouver, Canada. And in the mountains, deep in the mountains, there is this adorable 18-year-old cerebral palsy, and she is in a wheelchair. And she had a dream for her 18th birthday to be able to go out and do her first ever trail race. And so she wanted to get into this adaptive trail rider, sit in the trail rider, and be pushed and pulled for this 25-kilometer trail race that was over 1,000 feet or 1,000 meters of elevation gain and descent. So just about 3,000, close to 3,000 feet. And long story short, for me, it helped me to build resilience because I was getting back out doing something that I love, but actually making it not about myself. I was helping towards this dream of what Claire's was. And to be able to see her come across that finish line just filled with joy.
That's
And when I think of, right. And then for her,
yeah.
as an 18-year-old, she was surrounded by 5 different women who were like, Claire, let's do this. Something that may have never been possible to her. We went and played in the forest for 6.5 hours and got her from the start line to the finish line. All of us obviously in tears at the finish line. But if you
Yeah.
think of that resiliency in that group setting that was strengthened, that was built, that was discovered, I will share with you, we started at that start line, not even 100 feet away from the start line, the motor went out. The motor is used to push up some of the inclines. So we put on harnesses and ropes, if we want to talk resilience.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Well, and that's a good question. So is that resilience or is that determination? Or is that, because as you were talking, right, there's different people, different ways to define resilience, right? It sounds to me like you're talking about bringing out the best in ourselves, like going beyond what we think is possible and reaching, seemingly impossible goals, those types of things, that part of resilience. Am I getting that right? That's really the most part of the resilience that you're speaking about?
There was adaptability. There was determination.
Yeah.
There was obviously teamwork. There was self-discovery. There was so many things that were uncovered from that. But ideally, when we think about resilience, right, we have to go through some type of adversity to create resiliency. And so I think sometimes we really have to look at it from like this. I'm almost picturing like a ball, like an interweb of an experience that can be labeled as so many different things that get us to that end result. And in my opinion, the end result is gained resiliency.
Oh, for sure. I mean, of course, after you do something like that, right? Because it's a combination of body and mind, right? Because that's what makes us strong physically, mentally, emotionally. So yeah, totally. A lot of times when I think of other people, like the general definition of resiliency is kind of like get up when things are hard, right? And when you're down. And so one of the core elements of resiliency that I think is crucial is letting go.
Yes.
Because, if you're running that race and you're carrying bags and bags of rocks, so like all the resistance and everything, like, and you're saying to yourself, I can't do this, this will never work, or any, like those, the way any experience that didn't work in the past, anything that we're bringing with us is holding us back. So the hardest part of resilience is if you really want to move forward faster, you've got to be able to let go of the mistakes that you made in the past, let go,
yes,
let go of fear, right? Those things so that we can really embrace and look forward with fresh eyes. Experienced.
Yes, experienced fresh eyes. But and that's a great point. Like is genuinely just being kind to yourself, right? Like we can't continue to work on ourselves unless we're willing to let go of what wasn't serving us. And letting go, you bring up such a good point, Penny, is truly, I mean, I think that's gained resilience in a moment, because instantly we're giving ourselves the ability to actually like tap into what we're meant to be doing instead of like something that we have, stayed so tied to. And I think of oftentimes like control, right? And so if you can let that go, And another conversation for another time.
Right. Totally. Well, what did you need to let go of in that race or that run that you did? What did you have to let go?
Fear, without question. Fear, and when I say fear, it was actually a combined fear. So it was fear for myself because it was me getting back into sport at a level where I was in the backcountry, and if I needed accessibility to any type of medical means, I was really left to my own devices, which was a satellite phone. And we all know that people can't get in there fast when a satellite phone is involved. So it's, trusting that process and letting that fear truly, you nailed it, Penny, flow through me. Right. Like I'd look up at the clouds sometimes and I'm like, just let it flow.
At what point did you let it go? Right? Did you start with it or did you let it go before you started? Like at what point did you really feel like, okay, I've let it go?
There was micro moments even during, right up until like, oh, I'm doing this, like, and I think that's a really important thing to share is you don't need to start something feeling fully ready sometimes, because that can mean we're standing in our way if we want things to be absolutely
we'll never be fully
perfect.
ready, right? Absolutely.
No.
You'll feel the fear and do it anyway. But I do believe, though, that there's somewhere along the way when we're in a challenging situation where we surrender, like where we trust the process, where, there's somewhere where you finally release it. Not that there's not maybe a scary moment if you, like if you tripped or something like that, but that it's not that you're fearing that you're going to trip. Do you know what I mean?
And I almost look at it like I remember this book, and I believe it's called Broken Open, and there's a phoenix rising from the ashes, right? And it's like we will hold on to something until we are literally at the point where we're like, I need to burst in a sort of a way. And so, yeah, I think that was a huge let go piece, was trusting the process for myself. And then also when I think of Claire, she had never been trained with us using ropes and harnesses. So admittedly, she was scared. Right. And so it's the fear for making sure she feels comfortable and she can trust us. Yeah. And we developed that trust over time. But anyways, that's just kind of like a story to intertwine the whole idea of building resiliency. And so thanks for kind of lending that opportunity because it was really special.
Wow. Yeah. I love that you shared that. That's really a unique story as well.
Yeah.
So what else? I soon we'll get to like a quick round. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you feel like I missed that you want to share before we go into like a lightning round?
Oh gosh, bring on the lightning round. Those are like, that's me at my core. My whole background is broadcasting. So I'm like, let's do it.
All right.
I'm sure, Penny, I'll think of things later on though. And I'll be like, we should have talked about things.
Totally. All right. So favorite song that shifts your mood?
Oh, I am going to go for, honestly, with the Backstreet Boys currently being at Sphere in Las Vegas, Larger Than Life.
Awesome. One of these days, I'm going to put together a list of a song list from what everybody has given me.
Please.
Okay. So coffee or tea?
Coffee, without question.
Your favorite cue or mantra?
Life begins at the end of my comfort zone. It's there. You can kind of see it in the camera there. It's backwards, but it's written on the inside of my wrist and is a reminder I live by all the time.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I love that. It's written on your wrist, right? I know people get little tattoos of symbols or things that cue in that reminder. So favorite movie?
Gosh, can you tell I'm not a huge movie person? This sounds awful. Whatever my husband watching that I can talk between.
Type of movie? What genre?
I would say I honestly really enjoy the Mission Impossibles. Yeah, they're good. Action packed.
Awesome. So what is an important reset moment in your life that changed the trajectory of your life?
Gosh, there's been quite a few. I would say when I lost my position within broadcasting, Top 40 Radio Morning Show co-host, and Sirius XM Radio in 2012 was coming in pretty heavily as a competitor, if you will, and took away the talk time of a lot of us co-hosts and was, in a major city doing this. And it was one of the best experiences. And in that moment, I had already started to realize that I wanted to combine my love of broadcasting and helping people with well-being and helping them discover, like potentials of themselves they never thought possible. And so That transition, I remember the vice president of that company coming to me and saying, Mandy, there's something greater out here for you. Like, I know you can be doing something way greater than this. And I didn't believe him. I fought him for 3 months. I was like, if you give me severance, you can't hire me back. You don't want to do that. And that's exactly what I did. I created my own business. It's been 13 years now. I've got to work with wonderful human beings all over the world and study, obviously, resiliency. And truly, I think of it. And I remember seeing him in the mall a couple of years later, and he goes, "You're doing way greater things. I know it." And I was like, I didn't want to agree with you in the
Damn
moment.
you.
Yeah, exactly. But damn it, you were right. Yeah. So thank you, James.
Book that inspired you.
I'm going to use one of my good friend's books, Every Conversation Counts.
Mhm.
And that's by Riaz Menchie.
Can write that down.
Just like our convo now, right? We don't
Yeah.
think that there's going to be nuggets that hit us 3 months from now, but we'll remember something. Every
Absolutely.
convo counts.
Absolutely. And people who are listening to this right now, if you're listening, I guarantee there's something they're going to take away that's going to stick and that's going to make a difference. And sometimes we don't even know what it is consciously, right? Something just shifts. It builds on something that we already knew we were already working on, and just is that last piece that we needed to create momentum or say yes to something or say no to something. So I totally believe that. Well, where can people find more information about you and your book?
Thanks, Penny. MandyGill.com, as well as Reset with Resilience is available. I mean, every major retailer, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, you name it all, they're there. And yeah, I mean, this is the work that I love to be able to do. So any conversation that I can share about it with others to help inspire them with action, I'm here for. So thank you, Penny, for all you do as well. Because again, we kind of get to live in this space together, and it's a huge blessing to be able to do this work.
It absolutely is. And I'm so grateful. And I'm grateful to be able to have really amazing guests like yourself to have some fun conversation, to learn some new things, and, and to spark whatever comes from that for me or for anybody who's listening. So it is a joy. So thanks for being here, Mandy. And thank you all for being here, because you're why we do this. We want to share what we've learned, and really we love to hear also from you. If you do have any feedback, connect with Mandy, connect with me over whatever social media platform. We love to hear what's made a difference and how you're putting what you've heard and learned into practice. And really, things that you heard today were absolutely practical things that you can put immediately into practice. I mean, Mandy talked about her catch it, check it, change it, right? That's snappy, easy to remember. Lots of little nuggets. Remember that any step forward or partial step that you're making is taking you there. And not every day is going to be a step or two steps. Sometimes it's just going to be a micro movement, but each one of those will add up and you'll see your progress over time. So wherever you are, just know that you are resilient. You were born resilient. We are resilient beings. And you will see yourself on the other side of this stronger and better, and achieve more than you had originally thought or intended. So thank you again for being here. My name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.